Hey, welcome to the first bonus lesson of the course. See, recently I sat down with Evan Yu in New York City and I asked him a bunch of questions about the content in the course, starting with the previous lesson that you hopefully just watched about building reactivity. See, I noticed on the Vue roadmap that in the 2.x next branch, reactivity is going to be rewritten using proxies. So I was really curious about this and I asked Evan what this might look like.
So we have this dep class and we have this part. So the part that's most likely will change is this part, because here we are using the ES5 object defined property that is converting the data in place. So this is, we're mutating the original data. So with proxies, it will be a bit different. So I think it's important for us to just walk through what proxies really are and what they do, right? So a proxy looks like this, right? You can create a proxy by doing new proxy target handler. And this target is our source data. And the proxy, the new proxy created, it's a proxy of the source data that we have, but it's not the actual source data itself. So if we were to have a new implementation, our new function observe, currently we can do observe data and the data becomes reactive. But in the new version, we will have to do const observed data equals observed data. So this thing, it will behave exactly the same way as the original data, but it's not the original data. The difference is it's a reactive proxy. So note, I'm not actually doing a working implementation here. This is just really just to kind of have a high-level idea of what will change.
Okay.
So instead of iterating through the keys and converting them one by one with object-defined properties, now we will do const observed data equals new proxy source data, and we'll give it a bunch of handlers. These are handlers, or some people call it traps, because this is where it allows us to intercept operations that's happening on this source data object.
Okay.
So we have a get trap, we have a set trap, we also have things like delete property traps. If you look at the proxy documentation, you notice there are quite a few of them. All of these things you can intercept. So you can intercept has checks, get checks, set checks, delete property checks. Right? So mostly we'll be focusing on these three. As you can see, get and set pretty much gives us the same opportunity to call dep.depend. That is what we're doing here, right? And do dep.notify. So we don't have time to actually do a fully working implementation, but the general idea is somewhere inside these get and set traps or interceptors, we will do the dep collection and dep notification. Same thing for the deleted property. Proxies do work quite a bit differently. For example, if you look at the thing here, you have to, the get handler receives the target, which is the original object, the prop, that's the property name, the receiver, and all of these things. So, and if you want to actually perform the original action, you have to use reflect API to make sure it does the exact same behavior.
Wow.
So, so there's quite a bit about proxies that like you kind of have to dig into the spec a bit to fully understand what each of these are doing. It's actually more complex than getters and setters in that sense. So, but the cool thing is because the set trap will be invoked even for newly added properties. We can use this to detect new properties and make them reactive right when they are added. And we can also detect deleted properties. And the better thing is these also work for array indexes.
Indexes.
Yeah. And so so this is why when this is what we say when we switch to proxies, we'll be able to get rid of the caveats that we currently have. Because of these traps, you no longer have to use view.set. You no longer have to explicitly telling Vue you are adding a property and you want to make it reactive. So that's pretty much the whole idea.
After hearing that from Evan, it made me really curious to actually try to implement the code that we wrote in the previous lesson using a proxy. You want to do that with me? Let's give it a try. So here you can see we're back in our code here in a code pen. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we see we have our watcher function and we calculate the total. And then we change the properties and we see the total change, which you can see on the right side of the screen on the console there. We can see that it's properly reactive. To start changing this to use proxies, we don't change the dep class at all. We're not going to touch that. First thing we're going to do here in the middle is we're going to create a new variable called deps, which is going to be a map. See, this is where we're going to store all the dep classes for each of our reactive properties. So here, where we iterate through all the keys, we're just going to delete all that for now. And we're going to go through each of the items inside data, grab the key, and set for each key a new dep class. So this is where we're storing that for each of our reactive properties. Then we're going to create a new variable called data without proxy. It's just going to be a sort of a copy of our data object we're not going to touch. Now we're going to overwrite our original data with a proxy object. We send in data without proxy, and so that's kind of what we're proxying to. Now we're going to set our get. So we'll say get, that gets the original object. That object is really data without proxy. And then the key, we're going to call depend for that particular key. We're going to call depend on that specific dep class, and then return the value. For our set object, we have object key and new value. And here, what do you think we got to do? We have to basically, first we're going to set the new value. So we just go and set the new value on our data without proxy object. And then we call notify for that particular one and just return true. Now that's the majority of it. But what I realized after writing this, besides the fact that I was using semicolons, and I don't know why, maybe because I tidied up inside of here. To make this work, I realized the total there, I was actually storing inside data, and to make this work, I have to take it out. So we're going to basically have a total, because total doesn't need to be reactive, right? And now we can see on the right side it works. So now we're being reactive, yay, using proxies. And you can get access to this code pen to play around with it in the sidebar of this video. But what I realized here is, oh, wait a second. We should be able to add new reactive properties like dynamically, like after the fact. So how might that work? Well, the first thing we have to do is create a new dep class for the discount property we're about to add. And now all we have to do is add discount to that object, and it's automatically reactive. It's just automatic. Check this out. So if we set sale price and we have a new watcher, and as you probably can see where I'm going here, sale price equals our price minus data.discount. And so now if we log out, let's test to see if discount is indeed reactive. So get the sale price, just like we did total a minute ago. And then here we change the discount. If we save that and look inside the console, we can see that indeed sale price is reactive. And we didn't have to do anything besides just create a new dep class and then add it to the object, the data object. Well, thanks for watching. In the next video, we're going to be diving into the Vue.js source code to find the reactivity inside. And then I've got another bonus video with Evan diving into the source code with him. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.